In the oldest nights, when the first vampires still remembered the sound of God's footsteps, there was one among the third generation who listened more than he spoke. His name was Saulot. Where other founders grasped for power, Saulot searched for silence, something to cool the rage of the beast howling in every kindred heart. He traveled, he studied, he learned, and when he finally began to embrace, he chose mortals whose souls still leaned toward mercy. From those embraces came the Salubri. If a clan can be a prayer, the Salubri were one. Their earliest children sought to heal where the night maimed. They hunted not for sport or dominion, but for balance. They learned that kindness alone could not shield the living from monsters, so they forged a creed that walked between blade and blessing. The blood awakened a strange mark in them, a third eye opening in the brow, whenever their powers flowed. Some said it was a sign of grace, others said it was an abomination. Either way, none forgot it once they saw it. In time, 3 roads formed within the clan, each a different answer to the same question. How do you live as a monster and still face the dawn, at least in your mind? The first road belonged to the healers. They carried wisdom like water, pouring it where the world burned. Their discipline became known for mending the body, easing pain, and pushing back the beast's hunger long enough to save a life. Healers chose their childer with care, people who stood near death but refused to yield to cruelty. The teaching was intimate, almost monastic, master and student, secrets passed in whispers. When the lesson ended, so often did the masters unlife, healers would vanish or ask their childer to take what remained of their vitae so the line could hide. Mercy requires sacrifice. The Salubri wrote that sentence into their blood. The second road belonged to the warriors. They accepted an ugly truth. Some evils do not negotiate. Warriors trained until their unlife became a weapon they could sheath and draw at will. They were guardians more than conquerors, standing in the threshold when demons, infernalists, or murderous elders crossed it. They learned powers that could harden the will, strengthen the body, and cut cleanly when cutting was the only answer. The world rarely sang their praises, but many slept safely because a Salubri warrior did not. The third road wandered far from Europe, following the path Saulot himself had walked into the east. There arose the Watchers, seekers and scouts, whose task was to learn, to warn, and to endure. Among them the Wu Zhao took root, scholars by candlelight one night, thieves in temple roofs the next, guardians of kindred who would never know their names. Watchers moved at the edges of maps, noting where storms gathered, lupine territory, the courts of the Wan Kuei, the signs of something worse. Their calling was simple and impossible. See what's coming, and make sure someone survives it. As the medieval centuries turned, the Salubri's strange place among the kindred hardened. They were few, and often far from the feasting tables of princes. That was fine. They had no appetite for those banquets. Their discipline, known in different nights by different names, could soothe a tormented soul as readily as it could still a corrupt heart forever. They healed, they judged, they watched, and then everything ended. The blow fell in a year scholars still mutter with a shudder. 1133, a new clan, born from mortal sorcerers who had stolen the secret of unlife, reached for legitimacy the way drowning men reach for air. Their leader found Saulot's resting place. When he rose, it was with another soul burning in his veins. The Salubri's founder was gone, devoured, and a war of stories began. The victors told theirs first. A campaign of whispers and proclamations painted the Salubri as parasites and soul thieves, monsters who fed not on blood, but on souls themselves. Princes who had once tolerated the healers now saw only a pretext for pogrom. Decrees were signed, hunts were called, and across Europe the Salubri learned what it meant to be prey. Healers abandoned havens and passed their teachings to a single child before disappearing. Warriors died in doorways, surrounded by enemies who never knew why the Salubri had stood there in the first place. Watchers melted into the blank spaces between domains. The clan's third eye, once a sign of wonder, became a target. To mortals it was strange, to kindred it was suddenly proof. And when the hunters tasted Salubri vitae, many lost control. The blood was intoxicating, a curse laid upon a clan that could not afford one more. Centuries dragged by. The Salubri diminished to rumor and then to nothing, if you believe the proclamations. But mercy is stubborn. In hidden rooms, a teacher pressed their brow to a student's and said, "Remember." In ruined chapels, a warrior sharpened a blade and waited for the thing that would come and should not be allowed to leave. In distant courts, a watcher traded a priceless secret for one more night of warning to deliver to someone who would listen. The world changed. Empires fell. The mask of polite darkness, what the Camarilla would one day codify as the Masquerade, grew ever tighter. Even so, traces of the Salubri bled through the centuries. A mortal saved from frenzy who swore a vow and kept it for life. A demonist found charred to ash with no footprints in the snow. A coterie warned to flee a city 2 nights before it burned. The clan that supposedly did not exist kept leaving fingerprints on miracles. And then in the modern nights, the impossible happened twice. In one corner of the world, whispers rose that a Salubri anti-tribu had awakened among the Sabbat. Not healers, not judges, avengers. Their purpose was not balance, but retribution. They fed the crusades of the sword-bearing sect, bringing their strange discipline to rites that promised transcendence through slaughter. Where a healer might once have taken your hand, these Salubri took your head. Their third eye did not weep, it watched. Elsewhere, the old line persisted in ones and twos. The last healers still sought mortals on the brink. People who had suffered, yet refused to become cruel. They still hated this part of the ritual, the tutoring, the passing of secrets, and the vanishing act that followed, but survival demanded it. The warriors kept their long vigil, saving those they could, dying where they had to, choosing battles no one would ever thank them for. The Watchers held to their quiet covenant with history, recording, warning, surviving. Around all of them, the lies that had nearly destroyed the clan continued to do their work. To Camarilla courts and Anarch councils alike, Salubri was a curse or a punchline. An elder seeing that third eye might call a blood hunt on reflex. A young vampire hearing the name might parrot the old slanders and never ask who wrote them. That is how a genocide completes itself, by outliving its victims in the story people tell. And still, the Salubri endure. Their culture is a braid of memory and restraint. They prize consent in feeding, and the act is often sacramental, bound by vows and care. Many cannot or will not feed from the unwilling. Their curse cannot be untangled from their ethics without tearing both apart. Their third eye bleeds when their power rises, a visible price they pay each time they choose to help, to ward, to fight. Their lore carries the oldest word on a vampire's tongue that is not hunger, Golconda, not a place, but a condition, peace with the beast, if only for a heartbeat. Healers teach that every act of compassion makes that heartbeat longer. Warriors insist that ending a great evil quiets the beast more than a lifetime of pretty words. Watchers say Golconda is knowing the storm is coming and standing anyway. None claim to have purchased it forever. All of them act as if it might be possible. The clan's children have many faces. In Africa, the Nkuluzao carry the line through traditions that remember the dead, not as shadows, but as family. In the East, the Wuzhou still maintain their delicate balance between court scholar and rooftop ghost, measuring each city by the harm it shelters. Where the persecutors see heretics and monsters, the Salubri see charges to guard, wounds to bind, truths to keep, even from those who would twist them. What does a Salubri night look like now? Quiet, mostly. A healer in a clinic under a false name, tending to injuries that should not exist and never will in any official report. A warrior posted outside the lair of something ancient and hungry, knowing they will not come back, staying anyway because someone must. A watcher in a library no one visits, comparing an old map to new rumors and realizing that a city people call safe is a lie told by the people who own it. When they embrace, it is not to grow strong but to keep the light from going out. A dying paramedic whose last act was to shield a patient from gunfire. A teacher who kept a child alive by stepping between the boy and his father. A penitent hunter who learned the truth too late to save anyone but might yet save everyone. The new child wakes to a whisper, a lantern, and a choice. Learn, carry, disappear. The Salubri's enemies still speak loudly. The old propaganda lingers in ledgers, in court traditions, in the reflexive scorn of elders who have forgotten why they sneer. Some hunters do not need proof. The third eye is all the reason they require to draw a blade. The clan carries other burdens. Their vitae is dangerously intoxicating to kindred, which turns rescues into riots if they are careless. Their compassion can be used against them. Their numbers mean that every death is a century of healing lost. And yet, hear the other story, told quietly, without titles or banners. A Ravnos caravan spared, because a Salubri warned them where the sheriff's men would be. A Nosferatu broker who owes her unlife to a warrior, who dragged her out of a burning tunnel and refuses to be paid back. An elder Ventru who does not speak of the night. A healer steadied his shaking hands and told him the truth. He could stop, if only for an hour, and that hour could be a life saved instead of taken. If there is a single thread that runs from Saulot's first embrace to a Salubri's last breath, it is this: choice. The choice to be more than what the beast demands. The choice to stand where no one else will. The choice to preserve a secret, not because secrets are power, but because the wrong hands would make a weapon of it. The world of darkness does not reward such choices. Most Salubri die as they lived, quietly, out of sight, with their names remembered by one student and a promise passed on to another. And still the clan persists. It persists in the places where mercy is not a slogan, but a scar. It persists in the hands that shake, but hold steady anyway. It persists each time a vampire looks at the face of a victim and sees a person, not a meal. So if you ever meet a Salubri, if the third eye opens and you feel the weight of what they're offering, understand what you are seeing. A survivor of a story that tried to kill them twice, once with the sword and once with the lie. A healer who knows exactly how much damage the world can do. A warrior who understands that strength is not cruelty. A watcher who has already counted every exit in the room, including the one you cannot see. In a night ruled by hunger, they remain the stubborn rumor of grace. And as long as one Salubri keeps walking, lantern in hand, the dark will never be complete.